Hello, welcome to the Uncoupled Couple podcast, which is about two baby mamas navigating a unique co-parenting journey.
Closely connected and sharing our experiences. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Elle, and welcome to the Uncoupled Couple.
The Uncoupled Couple. Yes, you're going to learn more about that eventually.
Hello, and welcome to the Uncoupled Couple, a podcast about two baby mamas navigating a unique co-parenting journey.
Closely connected and sharing our experiences. I'm one of your hosts, Nikki.
And I'm Elle,
And we're the Uncoupled Couple.
So, hey everybody, welcome back to the Uncoupled Couple. Today we are talking about it's all about the kids.
Yep.
And you hear us say that all the time. It's all about the kids, and that is so true when it comes to parenting and co-parenting. So, the first topic we want to talk about is building trust and common ground. It's so important for us to build trust and common ground, not only with the parent, but also most importantly, that child. So, Nikki, what do you think about that? What's the importance?
So I think that a lot of times when we're talking about co-parenting, it's the result of a relationship. Obviously, a relationship that didn't work out, right? So a lot of times a relationship doesn't work out because the trust was broken between the parents, and sometimes that spills over into the kids. Sometimes we'll weaponize that, like, oh, I can't trust you with this, and this, as far as relationally and whatever went wrong with us, it'll bleed over to I don't trust you with my kids or our kids. So I think that that's kind of important. And I also think that and kids feel that type of stuff, right? So I think that's important on that because again, just even when you're in the house together, say it's not a co-parenting situation, sometimes um, parents don't necessarily agree on how to do this or that with their kids. So that's you got to be able to trust the other parent, especially when they're out of your presence. Um, so I think the biggest part of that is really with the other parent, because you got to get that established before you can even talk about that with the kid, right? Because kids know it, right? Case in point, you was talking about how and we all did as kids. You try to go to a different parent to ask for the same thing to see if you can get the answer you want from somebody.
Mhm.
But when you are on the same team and y'all are in communication and you have that trust with the other parent, that type of stuff don't fly. So that's kind of my stance on it.
Okay. I agree with all of that. Another thing to consider, I think, is on this journey of building trust is that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and that we have to be patient on building relationships with the other parent, or the bio or bonus mom or dad, depending on where you're at, and also of building that relationship of trust, especially with that child.
Yeah.
Because at first, they may not be feeling you. Sometimes they may even like, okay, we gonna see. I'm checking it out, so they'll not necessarily be mean, but they'll be a little standoffish and a little cautious, which is understandable.
Right.
So I'll say when it comes to building trust and common ground with that child, to take your time to give them the space to deal with their emotions, because this can be confusing for a child because they're going to be loyal to their bio parent.
Absolutely.
Most times they're going to be loyal to their bio parent. Also, they may be confused because they're dealing with their mom and dad aren't together anymore, and how to maneuver that. It's like, well, am I doing anything wrong if I like my bonus mom? I don't want my bio mom or biological mom to feel bad. So give time to allow that space with that, and work on building a one-on-one relationship with that child.
And I like that you said that because I've had it both ways. Like with my bonus daughters, case in point, Kendall was much slower, more reserved. Um, and she was like, I need to feel her out and so on and so forth. But my spirit, pew, came straight to me like, I love you, like day one at the door. So
Yeah, I think you kind of had to.
Because I mean, I was the one that
To
had the
adjust a little bit.
reservations,
Mhm.
and yeah, Spirit, just who she was, just melted all of that away. But yeah, absolutely, that is definitely the case because um, Kendall did feel that I got my mama, and and especially when they're young, they really are confused and trying to figure out, okay, how do all these people fit into my life? All kids want their parents to be together. So they are dealing with that, like, okay, well, I actually like this other person, this man or this woman.
Mhm.
Is that, like you say, is that wrong? Like, that I feel this way because I want my mom and dad together, but I actually do like Miss Nikki or Mama Nikki or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it can be confusing because they have conflicting emotions about it. They want two things that conflict, you know what I mean? But and none of those feelings are wrong.
Mhm. Also, another thing, as we're building common ground with our new babies, we need to listen more than we talk.
Mm.
Give them a chance to say how they feel or, whatever they need to talk about. And when it comes to grounding, I think another good way to build a common ground is to just kind of ask them about, what do they like to do? How was your day in school? How's things going without prying? So they can be comfortable. And especially if you can find some common ground. Say if they love music and you love music, or they love art and you love art, that's a good way to break into that, to say, hey, we have these things in common.
Right.
If you got an artist and she loves to draw, you can go say, hey, you love to draw. How about, would you like, how about if let's go shopping and get some things for you to draw when you're here? And you can draw a really cool picture for your mom or dad or whatever, to kind of break that ground.
I love that.
Mhm.
Or a game, maybe you guys like a card, something that
Mhm.
it's so much. So many different things, right? That you could find a show, a cartoon, a movie, like I say, a singer, or actor or actress. So many different things. There's got to be something that you can find to connect with.
And be genuine, because kids know you when you're faking.
Yep,
And they will call you out.
absolutely. And that goes into our other point is about being consistent and honest. You cannot build the trust without being consistent and honest. That's one thing that I know. Even myself, when I was a child, one of the things that you carry with you even into adulthood, broken promises, like those things, they affect the way that we end up turning out as humans, adult humans rather. Like that's one of the largest contributors to, being insecure.
Mhm.
They talk about all the time women getting with the wrong person because they got daddy issues. Like what we do in our kids' lives is so instrumental on the type of adults that they become. Um, and it's just so many, every kid, right? Every person is like a snowflake, is no two alike.
Mhm.
So everything affects people differently, right? Your inconsistency and it could cause trauma, insecurities, where this person
I'm
can't
proof of that.
lead a healthy adult life and needs therapy and things like that. Or you could turn that child into a narcissist where they are inconsistent, a liar, cheater, and never follow through on things. And that's a learned behavior because more times than not, we either develop some kind of I'm trying, like, not a chip on your shoulder, but you know what I'm saying. It usually a complex. We either learn those same bad behaviors or we develop a complex from them.
Or like me, if you broken
Oh.
promises, I can't deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, growing up, when Isaiah was growing up, I would tell Isaiah, I would say, look, I never made promises that I couldn't keep. I said,
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah, I'm going to try, but I can't promise to do this. On the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, I did not want James making broken promises. And I had an issue with that. Don't say you're going to do something and you think you can't. You need to say, hey, I'm going to try my best to do this. Even now, you talking about growing up, I have issues like a couple of times if you break too many promises, in relationship wise, I'm gonna pull back. Or
Mhm.
either I'll be like, I'm good. I'm going on my way. I've gotten better.
Right.
But I'll sit silently and be like, okay, let's see how this is going to go.
And that's the complex that developed from those behaviors. So we, really have to be careful how we handle our children, because we are laying the foundation and the groundwork for the type of adults that they become. And it's a huge responsibility, but being a parent is a huge responsibility.
Being consistent is so important, and our kids need consistency. I knew that when I was a career counselor at Job Corps. Kids, they want consistency. And these were older kids.
Yeah.
They wanted the consistency that they didn't get at home, and they came out with them doing things like taking the phone out. You're not supposed to have your phone out, but they got that attention that they needed to. And again, consistency is so important.
Absolutely. And this goes back into, points that we've made on other episodes. You got to be more conscientious and, especially like younger folk, you get it with this chick because she cute or this guy because he handsome, this and that. But these people that you bring around your kids, you really have to be a little more vigilant about making sure this is somebody that is going to be okay to be your kid to be around, because kids see so much more than what we think.
And they're so smarter than we were. That's my take on it. Because they see more.
They got the internet. They have so much more that
access.
Access. So much more access to information. These kids are tech savvy. I'm talking about they 3 and 4. They know how to get on tablets, internet. These things were not accessible to us as kids. When we had to do schoolwork and stuff, we had to get the encyclopedia.
Right, and go to the library.
Correct. And books are
put out those little cards to look for our book.
Right, but books aren't printed every day.
Right.
So we're looking at remember encyclopedias, they would update the edition every so many years because history, things happen. Now
you had it going on if you had a set of encyclopedias.
My mama had us a set. Well, my mom, education, that was her big thing. She was always about that. But now, literally, you get information in real time. Like, just thinking back, like, as something is actually happening, you can watch it live streaming. Going back into our day, that probably wouldn't have been updated in an encyclopedia for a couple of years, because they don't do a new. I don't think they did an edition every year. But even if they did it annually, how much history happens in a year, right? So yeah, these kids are way smarter than us.
It's crazy how you can, during the Ferguson riots, me and Tracy Berry McGee were going back and forth and looking at the news. The news still didn't have that information, but on social media, we saw it happening. Then 15 minutes later, here comes the news. Oh, there's a riot. Y'all late. We've been watching the riot before. Yeah. They have a lot of technology.
Absolutely. So yeah, you going back, you just have to make sure you're being careful about who you're bringing into your children's life, because those influences are lasting. They are lasting.
Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad. Absolutely.
And since we're talking about who we bring into our children's lives, that goes into responsibilities. And when we're talking about co-parenting, and especially when there is a new person involved, partner, wife, husband, whatever, that again, those layers come in that we talk about all the time. The parenting responsibilities of the biological parents and the bonus parent, and that's when we get into those boundaries, and sometimes it can be sticky for some. Again, I wouldn't say we're a unique case, because I'm sure there are other cases with us where it worked out, but with us, we didn't have a big issue with that. But responsibilities is like, are you responsible for the insurance? Are you responsible for the clothing? Are you responsible for the chastising? As a bonus mom, and we talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again. Are you allowed to discipline, and how can you discipline? What are the boundaries of that? And with that, I think it's important to, we've said it before, to lay the ground and to talk about it. And I think, again, with communication, if you actually sit and talk with no emotions involved, you wouldn't have as many problems because you know where you're at. The bio mom may say, you can discipline them, but I'm still feeling some kind of way if you have to spank my child. So don't do that, but I do want you to discipline them.
Right.
If it means taking the TV away, making them sit in the room, making them do or whatever.
Right.
What is your take on, especially with that communication?
Communication is key in everything, right? In any relationship, that's between you and the child or the parent. Like, we all have to be on the same page. It's just not going to work. And yeah, it does have to be clear because I feel like when the issues come in, when something happens and the person finds out on the back end. I'll speak especially for myself, especially like that's really the part that would upset me. I'm not upset because XYZ. I'm more upset about not hearing about it until after the fact. That's the offense that I have the issue with. Like, I don't have a problem that you da 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 da, but we didn't have a conversation about that. You made a decision without me, and that's not okay. We said we were going to do it, this, and that, etc. Case in point, kind of going back to when me and James got serious. Like, I knew Isaiah because James would have the kids at church, and I started visiting the church first. That's how me and James got to know one another. But when he was like he was going to bring me into his life, me and you, we met and we hit it off. And that was important. You all had that conversation and communicated, hey, James, obviously you're on date. I'm going my way, you're going your way. I just want to make sure whoever you're bringing around our son is going to be solid. Right. And I would like to meet her, check her out and, get a feel and make sure that I'm comfortable and I know who's going to be around my child. And, he was like, I have multiple kids. I'm in their lives, and you'll need to meet their moms. And I said,
we said that from,
and
I was a baby.
And just me personally, I was like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't want to be with a guy that got kids, and I ain't hearing nothing about their children. Or if their kids was around and you didn't want to meet me, I would be thinking something funny about you.
As a mother?
Yeah, I'd be like, dang, she don't want to meet me.
That's what I said. Mama don't want to meet me. You should want to meet me. I'm around your kids.
And that's what I would be thinking.
Absolutely.
So
if I haven't met your kid, then I'm going to be like, did you tell? Remember just earlier, I've been watching nonsense on TV, guys. It's been overboard with the reality TV, and I really need to shut it down. So I did start that, getting off topic. I started Monday mornings. I would open my day with motivational videos and stuff because I've been ridiculous on this mess. And yeah, reality TV is a mess. It's a way to get away. But on one scene, it was Love and Hip Hop. One of the dads, what's his name?
I don't watch it.
Anyway, if I say his name, y'all know who I'm talking about. But anyway, he married Faith. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway,
right? They probably know because you just said they probably.
And they're divorced, I think. But anyway, Faith had met his daughter, and she hadn't met the mom yet. And Faith was like, hold up, does the mom know about this? And she hadn't. So even Faith, as a mother, was like, I should have met the mom. And I'm just meeting your daughter and haven't met her. Because the issue, he hadn't told his ex-wife or the mother she's meeting Faith. And Faith had a problem with that.
Absolutely.
And it was, as a woman, she was like, hold up. And then it was crazy. It was some mess going on. And Faith went to the house and he just knew Faith was going to have this side. Faith was like, that wasn't he owed her an apology for what she did on Faith. She said, no, that's not an apology. And that's crazy. It sounds like something me and you would do. We like side together. He expected Faith to be on his side, but she was coming as a woman and a mother like, nah, bro, that's not how we do this. So it's cool when you have a mother or a father like, yeah, you my woman, you my man. However, this is not how we're going to do this.
Absolutely.
This is out of order. So it's got to be some order.
Right. And like I said, you have to, those things, you got to pay attention to how people act in your life. And it's like, I never understood, a young lady getting with a guy that has kids and he ain't in his own kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think he finna be some kind of dad to your kids. Baby,
That's a problem.
He not even a dad to his own kids. Wake up. You need to make better judgment. So things like that. It's just like me personally, I just don't feel like how can I be a mother and I'm with a guy that's a deadbeat? Like that don't fly. That's a reflection of my character because I'm with you and I'm just like, yeah, that's just not okay.
Especially if we're serious. If we talking, being together and talking marriage, I want to, we should know about each other's kids. And I want to be talking about my child. And if you're a guy, you're talking about your kids, I'm like, okay, that's cool, and if you got kids, I think that would naturally happen.
Correct.
The guy I'm dating now, his daughter is grown, but we talk about our kids.
Because they're part of our lives, and that's a big red flag. Gentlemen, ladies, if you're dating somebody and you know they have children and they never talk about them, that's a red flag. That means they're not in that child's life. Because if you were in that child's life, just like you say, a natural conversation, oh, such and such this and such that, they got school, got a play coming up. Right. That just happens in natural. But if a person's not talking about what's going on in their kid's life, it's because they're not in their kid's life.
Or unless, you may have some issues, that damn it say, I'm trying my best to see my child, but mama tripping. And we know that happens.
But you would know
okay, I got that. And sometimes women, they can hold, they're in a position where they can really hold that over their head. And so we know that happens too.
Correct.
Or even men, we're not just going to say women.
Sorry, let me preface that. Yeah, if there's some kind of block from them seeing their child, that's one thing. But if there isn't any block from them seeing their kid and they're not in their kid's life, that's the issue, a serious issue. And you may want to rethink that relationship because to me, if you would dismiss your own flesh and blood, how you gonna do me? I ain't nobody. You know what I'm saying? So those things tell you a lot about a person's character. So you got to be really, really mindful of that. Something else we want to talk about is mutual respect. Now, when we talk about respect, sometimes old heads, let me not say old heads. A more mature generation, maybe like, I ain't finna respect no kid, they kids. But no, you have to, when you're trying to build a relationship, you have to show respect. And that doesn't mean you're my peer. It doesn't mean
you're not my friend.
Right. But I should show you some respect. If you have feelings about things, I should be willing to listen to you and hear you out.
And it goes back to letting them share their emotions to walk through it and to get through it.
Got you. And also just the fact that they want to talk and share with you means there is already some level of trust and respect there because they're willing to come to you with an issue and talk to you about an issue. So, I mean, that is already a demonstration and showing that you're on the right track. But you definitely have to have, there should be mutual respect. Also, I know a lot of times we also have instances I've seen where to try to not make the relationship work, but get points with the other person. Sometimes people will find themselves in a situation where they allow the child to be a monster, right? They don't want to discipline them and they don't want to say to the other parent that they're dealing with, hey, your child is a monster. And the kid knows this and manipulates the situation because, if you tell on me, my daddy or my mama not going to like you no more. Or, you know what I'm saying? Kids play those games sometimes. So it has to be mutual respect on both sides. Because, I had a girlfriend in that situation. She's dating a guy and she didn't have any children. And he had a daughter. And sometimes it's a lot of, when the other parent is the same sex, sometimes there's jealousy there with that. So the little girl was, that and I mean, again, these things can go so many different ways. It's no exact timeline on how soon or how long you should wait to date. When you break up from somebody, so always trying to navigate those things are difficult. So this guy, solid guy, he was like, I'm not gonna just jump into a relationship, but if I do get serious with somebody, I'm going to do everything and introduce her the right way and things of that nature. So in that, and him not just rushing, it was several years before he brought somebody around his daughter. Now, in those several years, him being a stand-up guy, he's getting his daughter um, every weekend, whatever the schedule was like. They do daddy daughter stuff. They go to the park, to the zoo, and ice cream, and all of this. So all the little girl felt was, oh, now somebody is impeding upon my time. Mm-hmm. Now it's just not me and dad. It's me, dad, and this lady. And a little girl, and it was that funny age. She's about 8 or 9, mm-hmm. So big enough, but still a little. So the little girl was really jealous of my friend. So she would do like little micro aggression, like when her dad wasn't around, sticking out her tongue, saying nasty things and stuff like that. And my friend was just ignoring it. And we just talked about it. She's like, oh my God, like she's little Miss Princess with her dad around, but anytime he turned his back, mm-hmm. she doing this, that, and the other. And I was like, you're gonna have to talk to him about it. But she didn't, because he was just such a great guy. She was like, I don't want to risk losing him because, his child is, any good parent, their child is a priority, correct. But her thinking was, his daughter is his priority, so she comes first. So if he don't think we can get along, he gonna be like, oh, me and you we're not gonna be able to work.
Well, if that's the case, then it's not meant to be, or it's not meant to be at that time, or whatever. So, well, no hard feelings, but maybe this is not the time for us. Maybe it's not meant to be.
That, or my thoughts was, my advice I gave, I was like, you're not giving him enough credit. He's this great guy. I think he'll understand. And he did. She finally spoke to him, and he was like, why you didn't say nothing? Let me talk to her. Mm-hmm. He was like, I'm not out here letting my child disrespect people. That's not okay.
And not going to run my relationship.
Kids not, because that was his little princess, and she was spoiled like most dads spoiled her. She just thought that little baby was gonna be the boss of the situation, and if she didn't like it, it was gonna be over with. But they did have a conversation, and he was a solid guy. They're married now.
And I'm saying things like that work out. The little girl could grow up like, oh my God,
years ago. So
I was a monster. I love my new mom now.
They have a great relationship. Yeah. The baby girl is about 14 now, and they go shopping together. They do and then and they her. My friend and the bio mom, they actually have a relationship like me and you. Like, it's an awesome situation, but we know it don't always go.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking my dad was a pretty boy. I was a pretty boy.
What you mean was? Still is.
He's still a pretty boy. He's an older pretty boy. But Daddy, I look back, I said, Daddy, you was a player. That's when light skin was in. But no, my dad's a handsome guy. And when he was younger, he was really handsome. He had a motorcycle. He had this, I think I mentioned this before, he had a Cadillac. He had that Mustang. Daddy had it going on. But I would think of women that he would date. And
what girl?
So because my cousin Lisa, we were always together. So it was me, TT, and Lisa.
Yeah,
lady
Lisa
come
more
by.
Like your sister.
Yeah, and they like, of course, me. I'm like, I like her.
That is so consistent with your personality. TT wasn't having it. I know that. TT was like this. Who is
and that was a nice. I just went to show. I was thinking back like that.
Girl, little girl. I was always. My parents, fortunately, were married. To my mother passed my entire life. Mm-hmm. So, but I know 100%, 10 toes down. If I was ever in the situation. Oh, well, let me be clear. I ain't feeling the lady my daddy dating now.
I'm gonna say, look.
Well, no, let me not. Okay, let me fix that. Let me clean it up. She is super sweet. She's a really nice. And
your dad gonna see this.
Look at, and he might. He probably not. But that's crazy. But conflicting emotions. And I'm a grown 43-year-old woman. She is a super nice person. and all of the things, but I feel away.
And of course,
I was born. My parents were married in 1980. I was born
they
in
were high
81.
school sweethearts,
My
right?
parents were correct.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were together my entire life, and my mother passed 2 years ago on Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And pause. So yeah, kind of a aha moment for me. Like, yeah, as a grown woman, like I like she is such a nice person and things of that nature, but I just feel away because again, my parents were married my entire life. I was born into my parents' union. They were married in 1980. I was born in 1981, and my mother passed on Mother's Day 2023. So
How long were they married?
So they were together. They were married was that 43 years and together like almost 50.
Wow.
Because they got together back in, so my dad graduated high school in 75. My mom graduated 77. And they would have met in like 72,
Oh, wow.
73, something like
So
that.
they've known each other basically their whole lives,
correct.
just about.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so like 73 around this year. My mom and dad 2023. So yeah, they were together like
So I
50
can see
years,
that.
married 40, almost 44 years.
Even as an adult.
So it's very, it just don't feel right for my dad to be with somebody else.
It's still kind of fresh.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. And I'm an adult, you know. So yeah, and so just imagine the emotions of a little kid, 8, 9 years old, that has nowhere near the level of emotional intelligence that I have as an adult woman, right? Trying to navigate all of those things. So going back to my statement, I would 100% been TT. Like, who?
But you know what?
Is this woman, especially and young, not and just being, and me from being a young girl in my 20s to now, I've come a long way. I've matured in so many ways. So could you imagine me being 11 or 12?
But you know what? I did fail to mention the lady that my dad did marry. She has passed. Some things happened, and I wasn't feeling her. And even when she passed, my aunt was like, "You going to the funeral?" I was like, "Excuse me, Aunt Roseanne," and I said, "No, I ain't going to her funeral." I said, "No, I think I said hell no." No, I might have said the other word because I apologized before letting her know I was going to cuss. Because you're still
Okay.
my elder, and I just
Absolutely.
so I let her know. She understood why. So yeah, that whole wedding was, it's another story. Yeah, that wedding was interesting. I'll say that, but yeah, I didn't care too much.
So that's interesting because co-parent, and that just goes to what we were saying. We've said before.
And I was grown.
Co-parenting never stops.
Yep, I was
because
in my 40s.
It just, having that blended family, it just like your adult children are affected by the decisions that you make. You have to just navigate that. A lot of people, James and I are divorced, and we don't have any biological children together. And people like, I mean, y'all not together no more. Why? Like, them still my kids. Like, they still, because me and him didn't work out, the love and the bond and the connection that me and my children established didn't just disappear.
We were discussing some things about Jay today.
With the signature of the divorce. That didn't happen. So not whenever, we have one coming now. I think we share that already, that we're gonna have us a grandbaby.
I don't know if we shared that yet.
Okay, not sure if we shared that yet, but yes, I'm going to be a Mimi. So yes, and Kendall is having a baby. So yeah, and I'll be her Mimi, and unfortunately, she won't have another Mimi, because unfortunately Kendall's mom passed last year. So yeah.
Kendall and I talked last week, a couple of weeks ago.
And James is not remarried, so so she'll have Mimi, and who you gonna be?
I can be whatever, Granny. It doesn't matter. I'll be Granny.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna step in because her mom isn't here and her grandmother isn't here. So yeah, to give her the support that she needs.
Right. Everybody call you Yanni. Maybe you could be Yaya.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I mean.
I like that.
So yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
shower this little baby with love. You gonna have me do the baby shower?
Mhm. Yeah, we're just discussing stuff. Haven't even discussed it with Kendall yet.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I told Kendall I was gonna throw her baby shower.
Okay.
So she said yes. She told me the theme and everything. So yeah, we can do
We didn't talk about a thing. We talked about the baby reveal. How she's going to do that. She said how the thing she has with that.
Let me pull it up. The theme for the baby shower is a little piece of heaven.
Okay.
So that's the thing she wants for the baby shower. So yes, all the things. But yeah, a little bit off topic, but not off topic. You know, yeah, and it's important to make sure you have that trust and you have the respect and all the things. It's important. It's important, and obviously, we just had us a revelation, even as when you're dealing with your adult children, because some of our kids are adults. I mean, technically, they all adults by law. They young adults. They still figuring it out and making their way. But yeah, we got all these adults around here,
grown folk,
figuring it out, right? Trying to figure out life, and we still have to. And I realize that the older they get, it's hard to shift into that. Okay, listen to the adult person. You still like, this is my child. Like, I don't care how old you are, you still my child. So
he's still my baby.
Right. So
and guys, but he ain't a baby. I
So
said I didn't say he's a baby. I said he's my baby. He don't always be my baby. And I said like that with attitude. Yes.
Right. So try to navigate that space to be like, okay, he's a whole man. Yeah.
And my Isaiah would remind me, he's had to remind me in the past. He was like 19. He was like, Mama, stop doing that. Let me do it on my own. I was like, okay, I back up. So I have to back up. He was 19 then. So I was like, he's right. I have to back up.
Yeah, so that showing mutual respect, how that looks, it changes over time as the kids get older and things of that nature. Yeah. So our next point we want to talk about is the power of shared goals. Prioritizing the child's happiness and well-being. Now, again, the kids, should not be running your life. And when we say prioritizing the child's happiness and well-being, we don't mean that they're gonna run your life and that, everything is revolving around them. But what we're saying is to the effect of, as grown people, we have to make sure that children are living a happy, healthy life and they're growing up in love and things of that nature. Because again, as the adults, it's our responsibility to lay that foundation and make sure that they're growing up and we're not contributing to them developing any complexes and needing therapy and not being able to become a balanced, healthy adult, right?
Yeah. For instance, like if you and I are having a disagreement, the kids should not know that we're having a disagreement, that they shouldn't even be put involved in it, and when we talk about the kids being first, meaning I should not be complaining to Isaiah about your new mama, yada, yada, yada. That's just uncalled for. You just don't do that. So
or even your daddy.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So just not to get kids in the middle of that. They need to see as less as possible. And to them, things should be perfect, because we want to protect their well-being.
Absolutely. You got to iron those things out and let adult issues stay adult issues. You all go to the side, work that out, figure that out, what that looks like before, any of that spills over to the kids. I know sometimes things happen and unfortunately, tensions may get high and kids are around, but try to, limit that as much as possible and keep that away from your kids. And again, going back to, and if I say your kids, is that I'm talking about all of them, whether they're your bio kids or not. And if you don't love and respect the other children that aren't yours biologically, that the same way you respect yours, you don't need to be dealing with this person. Be a good human and step away from a situation if you feel like you can't love and embrace that child as you would your own. Because again, we think that a lot of times we are hiding things or keeping things from kids, but they feel the emotion, they feel the stress and the anxiety and the tension. You act like, hey, and being fake. They know you don't, they can feel if you don't really like them and things of that nature.
And my thing is, especially if you got it, even if you got a good kid, and even if the kid is, not being that great, with them being that young, there's a reason behind it. I have to just remind myself that this is a child. This is a baby. And I say it's about the kids. It's not about me. And again, we keep talking about communication why it's so important. Good communication between all of the parents, and then building again that bond with communicating with that child. It may start off like with spirit, boom, just like that, you are off and running. But you may have a child, it may be some other things going on. And again, you have to be patient, especially if you're with that man or woman and say, well, I love you. We gonna make this work, because I love you.
Like you know, just some kids, that's their personality. Elijah's more reserved. Like I say, some might just be.
And it may not mean that they don't like you. They're just reserved, like, I got to get to know you. Just like some adults are like that.
Elijah didn't mess with hardly nobody. He just, and it didn't mean he didn't like her. He just.
Like my niece Soraya, she has to get, LA is different to her. Soraya is like, Shahada used to be like, we'll see. And I've been mean, just kind of like they have to get. Some days Soraya come in, I say, hey baby, she won't speak to me. I'm like, look, girl. So, this is her personality.
Right. Elijah, more introverted to himself. Kendall, same way. Jamie, same way. I had to break down his walls. Isaiah, social butterfly. Jay, social butterfly. Like it was, you know what I'm saying? Spirit, social butterfly. Like so just again, it may not necessarily, like you said, be something going on. It just might be that child's personality. It just might be a little more reserved and a watcher, people watcher. Because Elijah would be like, and Jamie just keep the scene, see what's going on here, and all of that, so definitely. So I think one of the things we didn't mention, which is going to be so important, is going to be compromise.
We did not really talk about that.
But it has to be it has to be present, because we're talking about shared values and communication and so on and so forth. But there's gonna be times where I'm gonna say A and dad may say C and bonus mom may say F. What do we how do we navigate that? How do we figure that out?
That's good. That's a good one.
And the only way to work it out is gonna be compromise. We got to figure out, we got A, C, and F. So let's look at B. Let's look at scenario B.
Right. What do we agree on? Okay, let's look at what we do agree on. Why don't we agree on this? You got to sit down. Yeah. Never didn't think about that. When all three do not disagree or have a disagreement. Like you said, the bonus mom may be like, well, no, I think we should do this because this is what I see, And it could be where mom, and it's crazy how the mom and the bonus mom and the child could have a whole different relationship that the others two, and maybe it's crazy. I'm just thinking now how there may be something where the bonus mom can reach the child where the other parents can't.
Correct.
I hadn't thought about that either.
There's so many scenarios and ways. And sometimes if you really do have a great relationship with your bonus kids, you may feel more comfortable talking to your bonus parent because you feel like it may hurt your bio parent's feelings. It's just so many different scenarios. And, that's kind of how we have to, a parent is a thankless job a lot of the times. and it's one where you really have to kind of die to yourself. Like you really, because you'll be running around with a lot of hurt feelings a lot of the time when it comes to this parenting game, right? It's all trial and error. There's no handbook that tell you everything that needs to be done. Um, so yeah, it's just um, definitely you have to be on top of, you know, you gotta have a certain level of emotional intelligence because there's gonna be sometimes things that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear because, you know, you may be like, oh well, I'm the bio mom, so I know best. But if we going back, keeping your child's happiness and well being the priority, bonus mom may have a better or bonus dad may have a better idea or suggestion. If it's a situation where, especially if the child is in the house with the bonus parent and they're, you know, around them more, right? Day to day, there may be things that they see that you don't see. You know, so you have to take that into consideration, and sometimes that can be a little hurtful. I mean, you remember we talked about that. You know, like our first or second episode, you dealt with that when Isaiah came to stay with us. You felt like you know, you had a lot of
my
emotions.
part?
Like I'm his mom, like, and I'm not, and he's not living with me anymore. So like now, this other person is going to be around my child on an everyday basis, and you know, you struggle with that, but it didn't make you just went so far as to, well, I'm gonna wash his clothes. I'm like,
Well, it's
okay,
like I got to do something.
right. So I can understand that. So but just your maturity and your intelligence and things like that, you didn't let those emotions block you from letting what Isaiah needed or what was best for Isaiah go forward.
And allowing you to also raise, you know, we talk about that village,
Yeah.
you know, because it was like, okay, he's with her, she's going to be raising him. You know, if brothers, if there's another brother in the picture and she's been dating this guy a while and it looks like it's getting serious, then it's cool to have, I think, especially with young males, if they have another father figure. And if you would, my gentleman I'm with now, how he said he got to the point, you know, he said the new guy she was with, he took him out, they went out for drinks, you know, and they talked about the whole thing, you know, the parenting thing, and
That's
how
awesome.
he got along when she had another child with the other father to help him through some things.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah,
I love that. And that's important. Like we gotta do better for these babies. We have to. And it starts with us. And if we're not communicating and making sure we have good working relationships, it's just not gonna work. Like because I mean you can't get on the same page if the communication is not there, if the compromise is not there. Like you gotta figure it out one way or the other.
compromise, communication,
Yeah.
and the care.
Yeah.
The 3 C's.
I like it.
And you know, when while we're on this, I don't know if we talked about parenting responsibilities.
We talked about it a little bit.
The difference, or if there's a difference, that what the responsibilities of the step parent and responsibilities of the parent. So you know, I like to go searching and googling and looking at stuff, just to get other, you know, ideas.
Well, before you tell me what your research found, I feel that is really going to be based on what works best for you all. That's my thought. Because like you may live across town, but you may work around the corner from the kids' school. Like it's just so many different dynamics that's going to play into.
So you as the bonus mom, if you're around the corner from school and you can get and slip in on him or her, and we know they're clowning, like Nikki, you close to go pop in.
Right.
See what little man up to.
Right. I think those responsibilities are divvied up based on the level of involvement. Because again, we know, unfortunately, some people are in co-parenting situations, but the other parent ain't parenting, right? Some people carrying the load. You know, some people doing this without that support.
Sometimes that bonus mom might be carrying the load.
Right. Sometimes you got a fair weather parent. You know, they coming through here and there like, like Will's dad, Lou on the Fresh Prince of
How's
Bel-Air.
that done if you got that the bio mom who's kind of out there a little bit?
Right.
And I said, since we talk about dad so much, how about that mom?
Oh, responsibilities also shift if your parent is out of state and you only get to see them like summers or spring breaks. They can't carry that day-to-day load, school pickups, parent-teacher conferences, and things like that. So I think that is a really subjective question. It really is really going to be based on what your life looks like, what that picture looks like. What did your research? What did your Googling
research,
say?
of course, repeated a lot of stuff that we've talked about already. And hounding in again on communication. Y'all gonna hear us talk about communication and setting boundaries, but communication over and over and over. For one, it said that this is responsibilities of we're gonna say bonus parent. You're there to support, not to replace.
Absolutely.
But again, it depends on the situation. There may be a position where no, you got to replace.
Yeah.
Say if the mom is passed, then you may be replacing. Or even if it comes up where the child say, "You're not my mom,"
I don't like the word. I still don't like the word replace.
I'm gonna get to that because you're gonna say, "I'm not. I can never replace your mom," and that's why I like it says to support but not replace. I'm gonna help you through this. Anything, I'll be there for you the way you need me to be there for you.
Right, because even if that bio mom or dad is not there, I'm still not replacing.
Especially
I'm standing. I like better standing in the gap.
I like that, standing in the gap. Absolutely. And of course, it talked about respecting boundaries. We've gone through that a lot. Building trust with the bio parent and the child. It may be easier for one than the other. It might be easier for both, or maybe not. Again, depending on the situation. And it said to stay neutral during conflicts, and I put when possible.
Yeah.
When possible. Because example, both parents saying, yeah, it's okay for him to go do drugs. No, I'm not going to be neutral. And that's not going to happen. I'm just getting crazy. But an example where and we just talked about how maybe all three parents are disagreeing with each other. And there may be a point where you're like, I can't get with that one.
And I don't really feel like just how we raised all of our kids. Staying neutral, I don't like that one. Because for me, I think it works better when when everybody is playing an active part. When you staying off to the side and not being an active participant in this child's life, it just makes
this is doing conflict.
It's just doing it's disjointed, and it's not authentic. It just doesn't make the family unit solid.
I guess depending on how serious the conflict is, and then is it really a conflict or is it just something to kind of work through?
Either way, I feel like the bonus parent should be a support for that, to help, and not just to help the person that they're involved with, the other parent. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all need to come together. Like, if like case in point, like it could be 4 parents. Like the other person may have gotten remarried with somebody, so now it's 4 bonus parents. You know what I'm saying? At the table, 2 moms, 2 dads. What we doing? You know what I'm saying? Because like my husband and I are married. His ex is not married. So, but when she does get married at some point, then Vaughn will have a stepdad. He doesn't have a bonus dad because we don't like step. He has his dad, his mom. He has his bonus mommy. Then he'll have a bonus dad with his mom's house, and we're gonna have to meet this guy, get to know him. And he gonna have to be in the family unit. So I just don't. I don't think that it should ever be neutral, because me and my husband.
So you disagree with Google?
I do. Because my husband and I, we talk about things. We're gonna decide things together as a unit. So I just think that's not gonna fly. He doesn't. They make the decisions for Vaughn, not necessarily like, oh, they need my input, but
but you should be included.
He will talk to me about absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And of course, said the same thing. We said put the child first, and we don't mean put the child first, but the child is the prioritize that child, and we, like I said, keep them in the center, not on the side, because decisions is surrounding that child. And teamwork, we talked about that.
Teamwork make the dream work.
Oh, and so real quick, it says the responsibilities of the bio mom or dad, clear communication, talk about your expectations, saying the same thing that we've talked about, consistency, setting the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we talked about that in the beginning. That goes back into kind of expectations,
Mm-hmm.
so that will set the tone,
Absolutely.
And
Because I really think kids are paying attention to basically like, okay, this is new. Let's see how they looking to see how you gonna act. What
I'm
made you laugh?
laughing because I don't know too much reality TV, y'all. I'm really getting ready to shut that down. I'm just thinking about two moms first meet each other and they literally like fist fight, and the child sees that crap.
That's crazy.
What a tone to set!
Right? Yeah. That's
And you got women doing that. They literally fighting about, yeah.
and that's why before the kids are even brought into the situation, kind of like the people you were talking about, she should have met mom first, not to get. They didn't say at the same time. They said should have met mom 1st but communication. He hadn't had that conversation with his ex-wife to say, "Hey, I got
So
somebody
neither
I'm
one
dealing
knew.
with." So that's what I'm saying. The communication we talked about that wasn't there. Yeah,
He brought the wife in, and she like, how you throwing me in, and I had no idea.
right.
Because in what happened in the show, the little girl was like, yeah, and I met dad's wife. Mama was like, what? She was like, oh.
He was already married.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so these people.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, no, were they married or were they getting married? I think they were married. I have to go back and watch
These
the
people,
episode.
wow.
I don't know. But anyway, she was like, well, you like her? She was like, yeah, she's nice. The little girl was like, yeah, she's nice. But in Mama's face, you could see like, no, this Negro didn't introduce her, and I have not met her. And that's one thing with me and James. When we split up, I said, I want to meet whoever if you're getting serious with someone, let me know. And I said the same with me, if I'm getting serious with someone.
Absolutely.
I said, just to meet them.
So, yeah, I think all of those were some really good points. And any final thoughts before we wrap this episode up of the Uncoupled
My
Couple?
final thoughts is, again, I'm telling you, communication is so important throughout. You gotta talk. You gotta talk. You gotta put your feelings to the side if you're still in love with that person and feeling some kind of way, or maybe not in love and still if it didn't end that great. Knowing that children need to have both of their parents in their life, if possible.
Absolutely.
If that parent isn't out there and even then, even if it's supervised visitation, if you got one like, nah, you're doing too much, I need to be with you when you're seeing my child, so maybe we can do something together. And even wondering, so say if I was in a relationship, I'm married, and the father of my child is kind of out there, and I have to tell my ex-husband. So when Isaiah sees James, I'm gonna just use that, I need to be with him, and wondering how my husband would feel about that. Say, you cool with that, or do you want to go and we all make it a family affair?
Right.
Just scenarios are popping in my head. Because again, there's so many layers to this whole thing of co-parenting.
Absolutely. Just have to. My final thoughts is that one way is not the definite, right? Every family is going to have what co-parenting looks like is going to look different for every family union because it's going to be different players, different children, different circumstances. But at the end of the day, just make sure you keep the kids are the priority because it's all about the kids.
It's all about the kids.
Well, you guys, that's it for today's episode of the Uncoupled Couple. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share. And make sure you follow us on all of our social media. We are the Uncoupled Couple on everything that we are the real Uncoupled Couple on TikTok. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Peace out, y'all.